All right, call this regular council meeting to order, January 12th, 2026. Shall we get started, starting with the adoption of the agenda? Councillor Federico.
I will move to adopt the agenda. I just wanted to point out that I will be recusing from item 9B due to the potential of perceived conflict of interest as per section 1.72.1 of the Municipal Government Act. So I will be leaving before that item is discussed in chambers.
Okay, and then I also want to mention Councillor Gale sends her regrets. She's had a personal loss in the family, and so she's taking some time to be with her loved ones and has our full support in doing so. Any further conversation with tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt.
Mr.
I know that there was a desire to add item 5D, which is related to the strategic planning. So before
yes.
we proceed, I just encourage you to do that.
Councillor Federico.
I can move the amended agenda to include item 5D for the strategic plan.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Heineman. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And that brings us to the meeting minutes. Would somebody please be able to move the approval of said minutes? Councillor Singh?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Conversation? All in favor? Carried. And then that brings us to delegations. Carmen. And we are being joined by first Manager of Legislative Services, David Singh, to introduce the subject, or no apologies? We'll just go straight to the presenter.
All right. Thank you very much to the Mayor and Town Council for letting us participate today. With the recent election, it seemed like a good opportunity to come and formally introduce ourselves. For those here that have served Cochrane for a while, Mayor, many council members, staff, as well as lots of residents of the town, we've had a great working relationship that we really appreciate. For those of you that are new, I hope I can give you a little bit of insight into Garmin and what we're about. And for those that have been around for a while, we've grown and changed fast. So hopefully I can give you a little bit of interesting trivia as well tonight. Garmin is an international, vertically integrated company that focuses on marketing products that are essential to our customers' lives. In 2024, we sold over 18 million products and generated over $16 billion in revenue. 2025 figures aren't publicly released yet, but it's safe to say that's even bigger this year. Vertical integration means we do everything from product research to design, manufacturing, distribution, marketing, sales, and support. Garmin has over 22,000 associates in over 100 offices in 37 countries, as well as 12 production facilities spread across the globe. There are 5 major segments at Garmin. Some of those pictures show what we do, but fitness, outdoor, marine, auto, and aviation are the 5 big segments. So how in Cochrane do we fit into that picture? So Garmin Canada has been here for 27 years, and we've grown a lot over that time. First as Dynastream Innovations in 1998, and then as part of the larger Garmin group of companies for the last 19 years. Through that time, we've grown from a few engineers doing development in a garage and a business around a kitchen table to nearly 300 associates in the Canadian operation headquartered in Cochrane. You can see the picture there, you know, the startup in the garage, developing software, developing products, the geek running in jeans on a treadmill, to that beautiful purpose-built facility that we have now. It's been quite the production. And we went in 5 buildings in between those two, so it's been quite the history here. You know, a little bit of a timeline, you know, over 27 years ago, like I said, we started in 1998 as Dynastream Innovations. 8 years later, in 2006, we were acquired by Garmin. We actually continued to operate as Dynastream Innovations for quite a while. And then in 2018, we rebranded ourselves as Garmin Canada and Cochrane became the official headquarters for Garmin in Canada. And a little over 100 of us moved into that brand new building that we built. In 2024, we'd grown enough that we had to add a third floor to the building, and that gave us the potential to grow from 200 associates up to about 400. Also in 2024, Garmin Canada started expanding into distributing and marketing products in Canada as well and serving that role. By the end of 2025, we're got close to 300 associates. So that's a pretty exciting growth along the way. So what do we do today? We're a key engineering research and development site for Garmin. We now have a warehouse that serves as a web distribution and reverse logistics hub for the entire country. Product performance teams work at our site to bring community members to help test our products. We have 91 active testers that reside in Cochrane and more in the surrounding area. In 2025, we did 10,000 hours of testing and 5,000 sessions. So that's over 100 sessions a week that are going on out of our building. So you have people coming in to test, you have people taking products, going out, running and riding and doing all kinds of things right outside. So, we have a whole fleet of people here that we really appreciate that help us make our products better. We also, of course, have, HR, finance, operations, marketing and communications, IT teams that all operate out of the office and make us a complete functional team. We've also had the great fortune lately of getting some positive social media for both ourselves and for Cochrane. Both CTV and CBC featured Garmin Canada and the town of Cochrane. The CBC article went national, and there was over 10 million impressions on that one alone. So that was pretty good for both us and the town of Cochrane. That was pretty fun. So historically, we've been predominantly an engineering site for Garmin. We have cross-functional teams of multidisciplinary engineering and technology professionals working together at a site with teams from around the world to develop superior fitness, wellness, outdoor adventure, and marine products. This slide just shows a couple of the products we worked on in 2025. We have 3 engineering divisions: connectivity, wearable platform technology, and products, and they play integral roles in driving the research, development, and design of the wide variety of Garmin products that are sold today. The connectivity team builds low-power connectivity solutions that allow Garmin products to talk to each other and talk to your phone. The product teams makes many of the Garmin fitness accessories right here in Cochrane, from bike radars, bike lights, bike power, heart rate straps, bike speed and cadence sensors are all designed here from beginning to end, with a few bits coming in from other places around the world. On the biosensor side, wearables forms a very large portion of Garmin business, and we are proud to be a significant contributor to that. We lead the development of the biosensor sensing technology that's on the back of the watch. And that technology lets you track biometric data like heart rate, respiration, skin temperature, and make those available to the user. And that data also is used to derive things like, what's your stress, what's your training readiness, what's your VO2 max, how well did you sleep last night? All features that lots of people around the world are very interested as they're trying to improve their health and training. We get to work on some pretty fun stuff, but how cool is it when you get to work on products that get to go into space? So Garmin Fenix watches were chosen because of the data integration we could bring before, during, and after their 5-day adventure off into space. So it's pretty cool that some of the technology that we made right here went up into space. It's always a fun piece. And this is just a quick sampling of just a few of the products that we helped build and are for sale right now. You can't fit them all on one slide by any stretch of the imagination. So what's the economic impact of Garmin here in Cochrane? Like I mentioned earlier, we have almost 300 associates currently working here. Many are Cochrane residents, others do the reverse commute in for Calgary and surrounding area and use that infrastructure to its fullest. Garmin Canada contributes tens of millions of dollars per year into the greater Cochrane economy. That takes the form of wages, buildings, taxes, equipment, and spending on local businesses. Garmin Canada directly spent over $500,000 last year with various local vendors, and that doesn't include, us all going out for lunch and doing all those things and bringing visitors into town, which we're doing more and more of these days. And most of those visitors really like it and want to come back. We really care about the community and want to be part of it. Corporate social responsibility is a way for Garmin associates to give back to the community that we live in. Associates are given work time to support a range of initiatives that have a positive impact to the community. CSR initiatives support a variety of local causes and focus on STEM, kids in sport, environmental impact, and general community support. Last year, 100 associates gave over 650 volunteer hours. A few examples of people participating and helping out were Girl Guides and Scouts, Cochrane Boys and Girls Club, Helping Hands Cochrane, Cochrane Humane Society, Cochrane Food Bank, Veterans Food Bank, tree planting, and trail building. In addition to volunteer hours, we also support a number of local causes through cash donations, in-kind product donations, often used to raffle off at some event, and enabling the bike park was a big one last year. A few of the different foundations: Cochrane Humane Society, Footstock, who we've been sponsoring since 2001 when it started. So that's been running for more than 20 years. Bike Cochrane, Cochrane Crusher, Big Hill Haven, Rotary Club of Cochrane, and Kimmett Cup. In 2025, community outreach support exceeded $100,000. So what do we see looking ahead? Great growth of demand for our products and technologies that we're responsible for have driven greater investment in design, development, and infrastructure. Beyond this, there's been a recognition in the last couple of years that we can contribute more to the Garmin organization. This has spawned the addition of new roles in engineering to support things like printed circuit boards that essentially connect all our electronic technologies together. It's brought people in to help make sure we test and ensure we're building robust products that perform at high standards. And we brought new roles in, like product managers, that actually help define products, ensure they have the functionality our customers want, and help guide them to market. Those are all roles that used to just be done at head office, and more we're plugging in all these other roles that help us be a complete site. I mentioned before, even newer to us is the role we're supporting in actually marketing Garmin products in Canada. We were just an engineering site before, and taking on operations and logistics. So we start distributing those products in Canada through facilities here as well. We are now well on our way to becoming a broadly functional Garmin site, well beyond the tech and people acquired so many years ago. There's a lot of potential opportunity ahead, and we hope that by continuing our work together, we can capitalize on and bring more of those potential opportunities here to Cochrane. Over our history, we've contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to the greater Cochrane area, and we have the potential to contribute another $1 billion over the next 10 to 15 years. I haven't come here today with any new requests or expectations beyond just wishing to continue our ongoing collaboration to keep making Cochrane a great place to live, work, and play. We want to do that for the benefit of the residents of Cochrane and for our associates, and our desire to continue to keep growing effectively along with the town. We have had a great run of over 25 years, and I can't wait to see what the next decade's going to bring.
All right, thank you very much. That's the end of your presentation.
Yes.
I'll open it up to questions and comments from council, colleagues around the bench. Councilor Federico.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, but congratulations on your continued growth and success. I mean, it speaks volumes from where it started to where it is now and continues to grow. So no questions, but just a huge congratulations to all of you on a job well done here in the community.
Thank you.
Councilor McFadden.
Yeah, Jim, just, congratulations to you and the rest of the team. It is great to have Garmin as part of our Cochrane story. It's an amazing story that we all share together, and I just think of the numerous different tours I've taken from Dynastream through the new building, etc. So yeah, it's a great story. I just did want to ask a question, and I may have fallen behind a little bit. Is the warehouse now open like the old Ford site? Or is that
Yes.
happening? That is working and operating now?
That is working and operating and has been for about 18 months now.
Oh, yeah, so clearly I haven't stopped by the warehouse.
Yeah. So we
But-
took half of it over and now we have all of it, and yeah, we ship a lot of products all over Canada from that site.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear that. Somebody was asking me, they're like, wow, Garmin Canada's in Cochrane, that's amazing. They're like, can you buy a watch at the Garmin shop? Anyhow, the short question is, are you going to do storefront anytime soon? Or is it just still shop online?
Oh, that's a good question. Right now, you still have to shop online. If you shop online, it gets shipped
Right
from
here, so we just tour over to the warehouse. Excellent. Yeah, no, mostly just, Jim, congratulations for being part of the Cochrane story for so long, and really appreciate what Garmin does for our community. In my past roles in the not-for-profit industry, certainly aware of the different contributions you make to the not-for-profit group and to the community as a whole. And yeah, it's great that you've got 300 plus associates working, and hopefully a whole bunch of them are living and playing in Cochrane as well. So congratulations to the team, and I'll try to take you up on a tour someday soon.
Yeah, no, sounds great. Thank you for all the great comments, and we really feel like we've just been part of Cochrane's overall growth story. When we started here, there was a four-way stop where the interchange is now, and one traffic light, and we're less than 10,000 people. So Cochrane's story and our growth story are very, very intertwined, and we want to keep that up, collaborating and work to grow together.
Councilor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Jim, and thanks for having council for a site tour sometime in December. I forget when we were there, but it was impressive to see all the changes around there. I hadn't been for 5-6 years, I think, and quite the difference even in that 5 to 6 years. Amazing. You have a warehouse, I believe, that you're even shipping out of Cochrane from too, which is pretty amazing to see in our small town. One thing that did stick out to me was 300 associates. Does that mean you're the largest employer in Cochrane, or are you top 3? I guess you wouldn't know that answer, but it's got to be getting close by now.
It's got to be up there. I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. You might be able to better answer how
Yeah,
many
it's okay.
employees the town has, and maybe Spray Lake Sawmills, but we've got to be up there.
Fair enough, okay. My one question I did have before you presented was, you're here before council. You did say in your presentation, finding ways to work together to proactively address any challenges to our future successes. Just wondering, are there challenges to Garmin's future success in Cochrane? Is there anything that we can be made aware of, or you're seeking, or is this just a delegation to come see us tonight and give us an update on what's going on with Garmin?
Oh, it's just to come and let you know what we're at, and we have ways that we are working together and cooperating to try to ensure that we can continue to grow over in the future, right? We know there's lots of things that you need to keep in mind, as we grow, and we just want to be part of that and planning that so it runs smoothly as we continue to grow.
Okay, well, great. Well, thanks for coming to see us tonight, and thanks again for the the invite last month to come see everything that you guys are up to, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're not off the hook yet. Councillor Singh?
Thank you, Jim. Just if you're gonna elaborate, what are the opportunities you see in the near future? Like for the people or the youngsters who wanna live, work, and play here, what are the opportunities they see Garmin as a hub or from the warehouse perspective?
I think there's a lot of different opportunities. You know, the technologies that we keep working on, we're being very successful in leading and growing our market share. So we continue to have ideas to make products here. That means we need to grow and add people. We have a huge pipeline into the universities in Alberta. Calgary is a very big one for us, as well as the U of A, right? So we're doing that. We're trying to invest all the way back, right? I showed you some of the slides with the kids and get them interested in science and technology so that they go in and we get the kids excited and going into those programs through high school into universities so that they can come work for us individually, you know, eventually. And we want to keep building those opportunities here, right? And I talked about all the people that come help test our products, and we really want to enable that. And it's one of the reasons why we invest in, you know, building trails here, why we're talking to the town about how do we build better infrastructure and connectivity so you can walk and you can ride and you can run everywhere in town, right? Because like I said, we have 100 people a week coming to test our products, and there's kind of this couple blocks between our office and the amazing pass system we have. And you know, Drew and his team, we've been talking about like how do we make that better? How do we bridge some of those gaps that we have and keep investing in the future? And we've, you know, it's great that we're having those dialogue and looking for solutions as we build the town, because it doesn't just help us, it helps all the residents of Cochrane if we do that really well.
Yeah, thank you, yeah, for bringing that, because, you know, one of the main thing is STEM, like, you know, for high school and the university, that
Yeah.
kids will have the opportunity if they do their internship or something. And Garmin, you know, I always feel proud, like one time I was in Calgary and somebody was buying a Garmin product and I told them, hey, I'm from Cochrane, there where the product is being developed or something. So it's a proud
Yeah.
moment
And
there.
yeah, I mean, mention the university programs, and like right now we have probably 25 to 30 internship students working at our building right now. And in May, it'll be close to 50 intern students that work in the building, so.
If I could, Jim, would you be able to share just a little bit of information with council? I know we've had conversations in the past where you've had employees who perhaps live in Calgary and work for Garmin, and then they really love Cochrane and the community and decide to relocate here, and just that cycle. And as we continue to see that cycle, and the growth of Cochrane, I you know, council, I really share Jim's comments about Garmin's story is also Cochrane's story, and the opportunity where we're growing, Garmin is growing, and just, I don't know, perhaps, and again, think about the growth, the trajectory of growth that you've had, the 20% a year, and you see their staff growing. Garmin's going to have an even bigger presence in Cochrane in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, so many of the people we hire are young and right out of school. In fact, we get them as students to start with, and then they come and work for us, and then they move along and they start wanting to start a family and stuff like that. And we all know how great a place Cochrane is to raise a family, and I raised my family here, right? You're only, you know, we can complain about traffic here, but honestly, we're only a few minutes away from everything, right? From their school to their sports things to whatever, and it's such a great community for all that. And you know, one fun statistic, right, is we all obviously have a broad spectrum of associates that work for us. We're really proud of how many female engineers work for us as well. And we have lots that are starting families. And, you know, if you look at the stats of who works in Cochrane and who works in Calgary, and then you look at all our female engineers that are off on maternity leave, and almost none of them live in Calgary. They all live here or close to here, right? And that just goes to speak as people grow up and they have families, you know, they're choosing Cochrane as a great place to live.
And if I can, Councillor Singh, and again, I don't want to totally participate in this discussion with council as it's Garmin and Jim's presentation, but I think these are high-paying STEM jobs within our community. There would be more of them. I think council's made a deliberate investment in our incubator as well, where we're creating small businesses that are hopefully going to follow a very similar path to Garmin. And I think it just creates a whole ecosystem where we see growth and see something that's really truly special for Cochrane. So I just wanted to share that without trying to participate too much in the meeting.
Yeah, and it's our hope that it will attract more tech companies into Cochrane as well. I think the more technology that we have here, the more that'll benefit Cochrane and the more that'll benefit Garmin as a bigger and bigger ecosystem gets set up that way.
Thanks, Jim.
Councillor McDonald?
Thank you. I'm so glad you guys are here tonight and we can tell this story to anyone watching. And I'm glad you brought up the incubator. I think you're inspiring so many young business minds here in Cochrane. And not just in business and innovation and in tech, but I want to just speak for a second about your corporate social responsibility and the commitment you've made to that here. I've been lucky enough to stand in your front office and accept a watch on behalf of local charity and then go see it auctioned off and bring in money for really, really impactful work that happens here. So I want to thank you for doing that. I think it's incredible that any fundraiser you go to in Cochrane is very likely to have a Garmin watch as part of the fundraiser. That's a pretty incredible thing. I always feel like one of the very special things about Cochrane is that Cochrane takes care of Cochrane, and you exemplify that. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the kind words. And just going back to the incubator as well, it's like, you know, we try to look for ways that we can help out throughout the community in all ways. And you know, Andrew, who's sitting back here as well, is participating in the incubator and as part of what he volunteers to do. So we try to look for all the different ways that we can give back.
Before we go around for round two of comments, I have a couple of things to say. I, like similar to all my colleagues, sincerely appreciate you being here this evening, but far more importantly, appreciate your presence in Cochrane. I think our community is very lucky to have you as an industry leader in our community. I do think at 300, you probably are the largest employer. I think if my memory serves me correctly, as per our recent budget, we were at like 285 or 287 full-time equivalents. So 300, you'd be larger than the town of Cochrane.
So we just like passed you. Like,
Yeah, well,
last year.
I hope to see the private sector continue to grow faster than the government. So that's good news. I am, to that point, actually, the question I had is, are you able to share any long-term growth plans? If you're at 300 now, how many jobs could you be generating in Cochrane in the future, in the years ahead?
I mean, we're trying to, you know, I guess if you look backwards, over the last 5 years, you know, we've grown like 18 to 24%, 4 out of the 5 years. So whatever that works out to compounded annual trajectory, that's, you know, 15+% that we've been growing year on year, which really starts to add up. You know, long-term planning when we were trying to figure out space and stuff like that, you know, we moved into that building. Originally, we were about 100 people. People thought it was crazy when I planned. So we put the infrastructure to build a 3rd floor. And a few years later, we were doing the plans to do it. And we grew. We only opened that space up less than 2 years ago. We were around 200 people, and we're already starting to hit 300. So it's hard to imagine, to give a definitive answer, because we just grow at the rate that we're successful, but we've had a track record of 25 years of being successful. And long term, we can see passing the 400 mark, having to find more space and grow. And, you know, we're trying to plan and say what happens someday if we get up to 1,000 people. It's kind of our vision of what we could be.
Well, it's very exciting. I hope to see it happen. More of a detailed question. I was just wondering if Garmin was having any participation in the Ironman event coming up this summer. It seems like a really natural fit for you.
It's a pretty natural fit. We've sponsored Ironman Calgary for a number of years, and I believe we will be sponsoring again this year, right? Yep. So, and I will be participating in it, so look
Perfect.
forward to it.
Excellent. Well, that's it for me. I think Councilor McFadden still has some questions or comments.
Yeah, I was gonna let you go on we all love Garmin and we're glad you're part of our story. But one of the pieces that historically, anytime we talk about the Cochrane's economic development strategy, or what our economic development story wants to be, and we're trying to look ahead and visualize, it always comes back that, you know, Cochrane wants to focus on, you know, tech and engineering firms. We want those clean businesses. We want the type of jobs that you bring to town. And as you had identified, you know, and Mr. Hyman identified that ecosystem in the hope that Garmin could be an anchor tenant or a gravity business to draw in more like-minded tech businesses or companies that support your business. And so that's one of the hopes that we're having. I know in previous council we even talked about, you know, the desire to maybe create a tech sector or an IT sector section of town. So all those type of discussions do happen. But I guess my question for you is, are there barriers in place that that keep that from happening? Or what do we need to do, or what could we do to help draw more of those businesses, like-minded businesses, to Cochrane? Did you want me to go back to We Just Love Garmin?
No, I mean, that's a great question, and I think something we're willing to work with council and administration to keep thinking and brainstorming of ways that we could make that happen. I think, you know, having a space for people to set up is great and lower some barriers. But, you know,
Is that, sorry, let me just translate, is that just the need for more developable, with more light industrial or commercial lands available for development? Is that what we're talking about? Like, the ability to have more office space?
I do think as we look around and think about, you know, different opportunities and how do we grow, there is definitely a piece of the puzzle is actually having land that you could develop businesses with. I think Cochrane's grown a lot over the last years, but really space to build commercial enterprise is pretty limited, and that space hasn't grown, and that means the costs of doing some of those things in Cochrane has, compared to other places, continues to go up, just because of the scarcity of land that's zoned appropriately for that. So that is definitely going to be one of the pieces of the puzzle that needs to get solved long-term, if you want to continue to attract businesses into the area.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Jim. That was kind of what I was hoping to hear, is kind of identifying some of those barriers, and certainly in a space where the municipality can make a difference. And yeah, and certainly I hope that's something we can make a difference in this term, is to start identifying what those barriers are to business development, and see what we can do to open that up and encourage that. So yeah, so thank you for identifying that. I think we need to start having these conversations so that we can start brainstorming and working together on solutions. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, perfect. I think that is it. Do you have any questions or comments for us or our administration?
Just one more big thanks to all the support that we've received over the years. It's really appreciated, and and I look forward to continuing to work, you know, as closely or even more closely so that we can map out our future successes on both sides. So, thank you.
All right, excellent. Thanks for being here. Okay. Next up, I guess, is there a motion? Do we need to accept that for information? Yeah, I do need a motion from council. Can somebody move that we accept the presentation for information? Councilor McFadden,
I will move that council accept the Garmin presentation as information.
conversation. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Then next up, it is the Horse Creek Sports Park, former school site municipal reserve designation removal. Please take it away, Mr. Krasinski.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thank you for having me here tonight for this report. I do have a presentation prepared if you'd like a recap of the presentation of the public hearing. But as we've discussed this a few times at council, I'm happy to advance through to a recap of the public hearing and through to recommendations if you prefer.
Council, do we need to see the presentation again? All right, well, this is an interesting segue into our next item. I think Councilor McFadden has something.
Yeah, so if this public hearing was when? I don't think I attended this public hearing, so it was a related one.
December 8, 2025. And there was 2 people that spoke. Happy to recap the public hearing if you'd like. I'm just wondering if you'd like to see the presentation again or if you'd like me to
Oh, no, I
kind
remember
of jump
now.
to that public hearing recap.
It went sideways.
Pardon me?
I know, I remember the public hearing now.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was here for it, so we're good.
From what I recall, the public hearing highlighted there were lots of people who wanted to provide input on the use of the site, but it was
Yeah.
beyond the scope
The scope
of
of
this. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
If I can, council, just quick reminder, this was really a housekeeping exercise just to remove a designation. But I'll let Mr. Krasinski get into the details and go from there.
Sure. Director Krasinski, why don't you give us the Coles notes?
Perfect. Yeah, at a high level, yes, as CAO Hyman mentioned, this is essentially just a housekeeping item that allows us to remove an MR designation for a parcel of land formerly identified for a school site, which is now moved to a different portion of that site. And we're looking to remove the MR designation from the parcel to consolidate it with the remainder of the parcel, which will enable us to then have fewer barriers in the redevelopment as we move through the various phases of development of the Horse Creek Sports Park. This slide identifies the location of Horse Creek Sports Park. You'll notice it's located directly north of Heritage Hills on a quarter section of land purchased to provide a Rocky View School District school site for 30 acres, as well as to accommodate a future Horse Creek Sports Park development. Slide identifies what I was referring to previously. The original site of the school development was on Site 1. It was then relocated to Site 2 in order to accommodate a stormwater pond and enhancement and enlargement of that stormwater pond. And subsequently now we're looking to consolidate Site 1 with the remainder of the parcel, which will alleviate barriers predominantly related to setbacks to property lines as the property goes through its preparation for development as a former sports field site, among other services. This just provides a high-level overview of the project timeline when the quarter section was annexed back in 2019. The initial school site, which was the site identified as 1 on the previous side in 2020. A decision in 2021 that the storm pond was insufficient in size and needed to be enlarged in order to service the site in the area. The final school site subdivided in 2024, which was the creation of Site 2 on the previous slide. And then where we are right now, which is pursuing the cleanup, which is required for us to be able to consolidate the parcel and create one developable parcel and alleviate the barriers related to setbacks from property lines. Following tonight's meeting, should council follow our recommended action of option 1 in the report, then we'll proceed with consolidation requests from Land Title's office through a designated officer, which we've identified as most likely CAO Hyman or an alternate designate. Next steps, this is from the public hearing, these slides. So the public hearing has already been complete. The CAO approval would happen if it gets endorsed by council here. Then we'd submit to Land Titles and the site would be consolidated. Land Titles currently has an approximately 2-month time frame for registration of a subdivision. So at the earliest this would happen is likely near the end of March. That being said, the What We Heard report. So we had 10 public hearing submissions prior to the public hearing, 2 meetings of the public hearing, As Mayor Nagel correctly highlighted, most of the feedback of the public hearing was related to the range of amenities for that Horse Creek Sports Park, none actually related to the opposition of the municipal reserve discussed at the public hearing. The recommendation is our final slide here, is we recommend the council direct designation, designated officer to notify land titles registrar that the provisions of Division 9 of the Municipal Government Act have been complied with, and request that the registrar remove the designation of municipal reserve from the former school site on the Horse Creek Sports Park. We would follow that up then with a consolidation plan and land titles. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Council, if I just quickly can, I just wanted to remind you of some of the development in and around this area that, Township Road 262 recently been paved, so that is complete. That opened at the beginning of December. Also, Mayor Nagel sent the Rocky View School Division a letter confirming that all the servicing on the site was complete as well. So now there's an opportunity that is currently underway for the school board to apply for funding for the construction of the school. So again, this is just cleanup. There's a lot of things happening here, but just want to assure you that it's, as Mr. Krasinski said, simply to take that site that used to be where the school was originally going to go and make sure that that's unencumbered for our future purposes. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I'd move housekeeping option 1 that was just before us on the slide there that I couldn't possibly remember. And just ask one question about, does this officially pass the baton on to Rocky View Schools now? The town has completed all of our steps to have the school site portion of Horse Creek Sports Park ready? If I understand, I just heard the utilities are done as well.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, that has happened previously in terms of the transfer of the parcel on parcel 2. So this is not actually required for any compliance with the obligations with us in Rocky View School Division. This is in order to remove barriers for the municipality's development of the Horse Creek Sports Park.
Oh, thank you very much. So number 1 that we saw on the site there, which is now part of our Horse Creek Sports Park, this is moving so that we can put our recommendedies there, is what you're telling me?
Through the mayor to Councillor Wilson, it's to make that a lot more efficient and an easier, simpler process once we finalize our decision on the amenities there.
Okay. If I could be so bold, even though it's not what we're asking, the baton has been passed to Rocky View Schools. I just heard there is nothing more for the town to do to provide a school site ready area.
That is correct.
For the upcoming school. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
We just need the money from the province.
Of course. Thank you.
The hard part. Okay, any further conversation? I shall call the question. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, committee appointments. This one is Mr. Singh. Come on and join us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present Council's committee appointments, which is an annual process. You will have noted in the report that there are a number of committees that have vacancies due to terms expiring. So we currently have 17 vacancies across the 4 committees here on this slide. So Cochrane Planning Commission, Family and Community Support Services Advisory Board, Parks and Recreation Committee, and the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. So for new members of council, I thought it would be helpful to briefly outline the selection process. Vacancies were advertised for 2 weeks in the Cochrane Eagle and the town's website and on social media. Applications were sifted, with those most qualified being invited for an interview. So with thanks to clerks supporting each committee and our comms team, the recruitment process has been a great success, which is reflected in the strong number of applications that we received. In total, we received 77 applications. Administration recommends that council move into closed session to review the applications and consider recommendations of each selection panel. Once out of closed session, council will be given ballots to record their votes. Administration will require a few minutes to tabulate these votes. And with that, happy to take any questions that you may have.
Councillor Verdigo.
No questions, but I will move that council go into closed session to discuss the applications that have come in.
Okay, just normal practice as we review personal applications. All in favor? We shall Oh, we're not live? Okay, can I please get a motion to come into closed session? Counselor McDonald? All in favor? Carried. So let's take a moment to vote subsequent to our closed session conversation, and then we'll hand those in, and then we'll break for a quick 5 to 10 minute break while administration tallies the votes. So everybody handed their forms in? Ballots? Got them all? Okay, all right, let's break for 5 minutes and then Okay, perfect. Are we live? Good to go? All right, let's resume. So we have, the results are in. There are a number of motions, some of them more complicated than others. Did you want to go over the results of who was elected via secret ballot, or do I do that? Okay, so following the tabulated ballots for CPC, the elected individuals were Amelia Giesbrecht, Greg Stanley, and Cole Sunderman. So we will need a motion from council to appoint those 3 individuals to the Cochrane Planning Commission.
Okay,
Yep, Councilor McFadden?
yeah, okay. I move that council appoint the 3 public at-large members as named to the Cochrane Planning Commission, effective January 1st. Are we going backwards in time here? 2026 for a term to expire December 31st of 2028.
Okay, any conversation? Seeing none. Call the question. All in favor? Welcome to CPC, Mr. Sunderman. And then next up, Family and Community Services. This one requires a couple of motions because there's different terms under which people are being appointed. So first, let's just do the standard appointment. By the way, the 3 individuals, Sherry Gessner, Carlene Myers, and Teresa Bolton. And we'll need a special motion for Teresa Bolton, who's going to be reappointment for a 3rd term. So we'll start with a motion for Sherry Gessner and Carlene Myers, if we could get that. Councillor Singh?
I'll make that motion to appoint Sherry and Carlene Meyer to the FCSS advisory board. Effective January 1st, 2026, for a term expired December 31st, 2028.
Okay. Conversation? All in favor? Carried. And then we need a 3rd individual with some extra procedural language. That council waive the term restriction in the FCSS terms of reference to allow for a member to serve a 3rd consecutive term on the Family and Community Support Services Advisory Board. And that one would be for Teresa Bolton. Can I get somebody to move that motion, please? Councillor McDonald?
I will make that motion in favor of Teresa Bolton being elected to the FCSS Advisory Board.
Okay. And call the question. All in favor? Next page. So there were 8 positions for this long list. And so the individuals who were voted via closed ballot were Lindsay Wilson, Marina Chabert, Serena Blezzy, Amber LaRue, Sandra Lawson, Laura Sprout, Carrie Moynihan, and Anna Guimond. And in this case, they can all just be appointed with a single motion. 2 motions. 2, okay. Okay, right, so there's no special procedural language for this. It's just we need to do the 2-year terms first. So the 2-year terms, let's start with Lindsay Wilson, Laura Sprout, Carrie Moynihan, and Annie Goymond. I need somebody to move the appointment of those individuals. Councilor McFadden?
I so move.
All in favor? Carried. Now we go and do the 3-year term. 3-year term for Marina Chabert, Serena Blezzy, Amber LaRue, and Sandra Lawson. And yeah, that's all then. Councilor McDonald?
I make that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Last one, also clunky, but this one, there's 3 people who were elected: Haley Gavin, Heather Moore, and Ashley Marshall. And what's going on here is this will need to be another wave of the 3rd term limitation. But let's just start with the individual who's recommended for appointment not for a 3rd term. So that would be Heather Moore, if I get a motion for that. Councillor Federico?
I can make the motion that Heather Moore be elected to the SDAB.
All in favor? Carried. And then now we just need that council waive section 4.5 of the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board Bylaw 21-2024 to allow for a member to serve a 3rd consecutive term on the board. And that motion needs to be for the election of Haley Gavin and Ashley Marshall. I see your lights on. Councilor Federico, would you like to make that motion?
Sure, I can make that motion that we waive whatever the bylaw just stated that you just read.
'Kay.
For Haley and, sorry, who is the other one?
Ashley Marshall.
And Ashley.
Okay, call the question, all in favor? Clean and easy, carried. That's it for committee appointments. And then I believe our administration will be notifying everybody who has, or was accepted, and those who were not as well, to close the loop. Okay. And I would just like to take a moment to thank everybody in the community who applied. There's a very large list, literally dozens of people for every single position. Really, really qualified, passionate people. So a lot of great names out there. Sorry, there's not a seat for everyone. Okay, next up, procedural bylaw and council schedule amendments. Speaking of procedurally clunky.
Good evening,
Take it away.
Mr. Mayor, members of council. Under Alberta law, municipal council's authority to make a procedural bylaw comes from the MGA. The MGA gives councils the legal power to govern how they conduct meetings, make decisions, and organize their internal processes through a procedural bylaw. This includes things like meeting schedules, agendas, debate rules, motions, voting, and committee structures. In simple terms, the province delegates governance mechanics to councils. Council is expected to design its own procedures to suit local needs, so long as they stay within the framework set by provincial legislation. However, this authority is not absolute. Municipalities are legally subordinate to the province, which means a procedural bylaw cannot conflict with the MGA or any other provincial bylaw. If the province chooses to prescribe rules in a particular area, those rules override municipal bylaws. The province, under Bill 50, has given the Minister of Municipal Affairs the ability to establish standard meeting procedures by ministerial order. When the minister issues such standards, every municipal procedural bylaw must comply with those standards and will need to be reviewed again for alignment. Councils can still set their own rules, but only in areas not already dictated by the province. As of today, the Minister of Municipal Affairs has not yet issued any ministerial order specific to standard meeting procedures. It is being reported by AB Munis that consultation has begun, and it may be weeks or months before an official announcement. So why are we proposing the changes? Changes are being proposed now to ensure the bylaw that governs how council conducts its meetings and transacts business is reflective of our newly elected council. The proposed changes to the procedural bylaw come directly from the discussions council and administration engaged in during orientation. Over time, the way our meetings have evolved has created more meetings, more duplication, and longer timelines to get decisions made. Items often brought back to the committee of the whole first and then come back to council for decision later, which has increased workload without increasing outcomes. The intent of these changes is to create a structure that better reflects how this council wants to govern, with more focus on decision-making and less on repetition. Council expressed a clear desire to increase the number of council meetings and reduce committee of the whole meetings. The proposal is to move to 3 regular council meetings per month and 1 committee of the whole meeting. By increasing regular council meetings, council actually gets more opportunities to debate and decide while still keeping committee of the whole for deep dives when it adds value. This rebalances where council's work happens, moving more items directly into the decision-making forum while still keeping committee of the whole available for deeper discussion when needed. Although that is reflected in the report and in the schedule that was provided with this agenda, it is also up to council to determine. I know there was discussion around whether a strategic session would be more beneficial. Those sessions would not be streamed. They would not have formal agendas crafted, but would be an opportunity for council to do that same deep dive into very impactful topics with just directly administration. And we would rely on council's direction to determine whether that is the way you want it to go. We could keep committee of the whole within the bylaw itself, and council could call a committee of the whole meeting when they felt it was necessary. So why change the balance? Currently, many items go through multiple meetings before a decision is made. That stretches timelines, increases meeting times and fatigue, and does not always add the value that was previously believed when the current structure was approved. By shifting more business to regular council, council can act sooner while still using committee of the whole or strategic sessions strategically for complex or exploratory discussions. My only cautionary mention would be that those strategic sessions should be on such high-level topics that an immediate decision is not being done by council at the very next meeting. So the timing of the schedule change proposed aligns with the changes that were identified during orientation needing to be completed on the procedural bylaw. These proposed changes include adding a consent agenda, making public hearings a standing item, revising notices of motion, and reorganizing the bylaw for clarity. These changes ensure the rules match how council wants to operate. Consent agenda allows routine or non-controversial items to be approved with one motion, while still having all items appear on the agenda publicly available. This reduces meeting time spent on procedural or informational items and lets council focus discussion on substantive matters. Any councillor can still pull any item out of the consent agenda for discussion if needed by a simple resolution. Public hearings are a critical part of council's statutory role. Making them a standing item ensures that they are clearly identified, predictable, and visible to the public. It strengthens transparency and ensures hearings are integrated properly into regular council meetings. This also assists in the public's ability to find the stream meetings, as there will no longer be a requirement to switch during the meetings, requiring residents to find the separate link. This change does not preclude council from scheduling specific public hearings that are felt to have higher than normal engagement on any other date, as council previously had discussed. The proposed changes to the notice of motion section of the procedural bylaw represents a complete redesign of how these motions come before council. Instead of relying on one rigid process, the bylaw now provides two formal pathways, written and verbal, while still ensuring every item is fully documented and transparent. The goal is to give council flexibility without losing control, clarity, or accountability. A verbal notice allows a member of council to publicly signal that they intend to bring forward a matter at a future council meeting. This gives clear visibility to council administration and the public, while making it clear that no decision is yet being made. It allows issues to be flagged without forcing rushed or incomplete motions. A verbal notice does not bypass the written process, it simply starts it. After giving a verbal notice, the council member must still submit the formal written notice using the standard templates and timelines, which have been reduced from 2 weeks to 1 week based on previous feedback from council. This ensures the final motion is clear, scoped, and ready for council's consideration. As is done currently, administration will take no action on a notice of motion until council has voted and provided clear direction. Every notice of motion still requires it clearly state three things: what action is being requested, when it must happen, and confirmation that it falls within council's authority. The proposed changes ensure councillors get flexibility through verbal notices, administration gets clarity through written rules, and the public gets transparency through advance notice and consistent procedures. Overall, administration believes this creates a professional, predictable, and trustworthy governance process for this tool. So what is being asked of you? Just your feedback today. Council is not being asked to give first reading of the bylaw or even approve the schedule of meetings. We're looking for council's input into whether administration's suggested changes align with council's intent, and any additional changes council may want to see in the final bylaw that will come back to a future meeting for consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, and before council jumps in, I really appreciate that last slide. It's really about discussion at this point, getting some different ideas on the table. This is your bylaw, how you want to meet, and I think that's what Ms. Robertson has shared with you, and just eager to hear what you guys are looking for, and we can get some consensus and then perhaps bring that back and start making those changes.
Okay, perfect. I have comments, but we'll dive into council first. Councillor Fedeko.
Thank you, Vince. I don't actually have too many questions, but maybe more just sort of for some public confirmations, because I did see that there's been, you know, a little bit of chatter out there in the community. Number one, although we'd be looking at boosting up the meetings, so 3 council meetings and then the one whatever other meeting that turns into, I don't want people to think that we're just trying to rush through decision making. That's not what this is about. And this is just so the community hears it, not so much that I'm looking for any sort of yay or nay, but I think that if people are concerned that we're trying to rush through decisions, that's not the case. It's just that some things that have ended up in committee of the whole meetings are we could easily vote on them that night, and that's just replace that. And also that if council needed more time, that is always an option for council to say that we need more time on an item, not that we are going to feel forced to have to vote on it.
Correct. So through the mayor to the deputy mayor, that's exactly correct. Having those items come forward to council, looking for direction, council always has the ability to defer an item and bring it back to the next council meeting should they require additional timing. What you may see is something similar to what I've done tonight, which is bring an item forward for council's consideration and feedback here to a regular council meeting without asking you to make the decision. Because we know there are certainly things that will come forward that need that additional soak time, essentially, for council to determine the proper path forward. And so we will, on a case-by-case basis, when there is, say, a 3 schedule timeframe, determine whether we are simply asking for that feedback and input and then returning, or whether we feel that it is, there's enough space and time in that meeting. And the time you have to review the agenda reports, we'll be certainly making sure those are fulsome reports so that council has all the documentation they need, but council can always defer an item for decision to a future meeting.
Perfect. And I know that in some ways, when we had the committee of the whole, administration would kind of bring quicker reports back on the voting night. I imagine that, would we go back, is the intent to go back to provide a little bit more information to the residents? If we do go to the 3 council meetings, that we wouldn't be doing kind of a quick read through, especially for items that are just brand new on the agenda, if that makes sense?
I would suspect, Deputy Mayor, that there would be more fulsome information in the agenda report itself that residents would obviously have access to, and perhaps a bit more opportunity for council to ask those additional questions during the presentation portion. I think what we found with the committee of the whole in some instances that some things were coming that even council was saying, why is this here? You know, we were certainly thinking we were sharing additional information, but when you're bringing a first reading of a land use bylaw, first reading and setting a public hearing date is pretty standard practice, which is why we have suggested within the changes in the procedural bylaw here that would become part of a consent agenda, so that would just be passed with a motion to pass the minutes, and then council would get to the decision point on second reading after the public hearing had been held.
Perfect. Yeah, and that brings me to my next one, that we're not looking to advance any bylaws past first reading, right? That's it.
No, the only first readings can go into a consent agenda because it is not where you cannot debate on a first reading. That is generally for clarifying information that's provided, and very often there's not a lot of that council requires to just pass a first reading and set a public hearing. Our practice of not having 3 readings in a single day would continue, with the only exception we make to that is the tax rate bylaws that generally we bring for all 3 readings so that tax rate can be set with unanimous consent of council. But our standard practice of first reading at one meeting and second and third at a concurrent meeting would follow the same process.
Perfect. And then you did mention about the information report, and I was kind of sitting here thinking, I'm struggling to understand, think of what would be an information report that would just be automatically approved in a consent agenda.
I think we'd have to investigate that a little further. Some of what we gathered around the consent agenda, I had Mr. Singh and Ms. Braun did an extensive amount of research on this shortly after the orientation of this council to look to determine what might fit in there. Could be general information reports where there's actually not really any action for council to take other than to accept as information. And so we will dig a bit deeper into that and bring some concrete examples when we bring this forward for readings.
Yeah, perfect. I'd like to hear what that actually would look like, just to make sure that either it would be in or out. I'm fine with the consent agenda. The notice of motion you explained well, and I agree with that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that if we go to like a strategic session instead of a committee of the whole meeting, obviously the deputy mayor wouldn't have the opportunity to chair any meeting then. I imagine that would be taken out.
Yes, that would be we would probably leave it in if we left the committee of the whole section in case council decides to call a committee of the whole meeting. And at that point, then the deputy mayor would still chair unless we receive direction from council that you'd like that removed.
Okay. And the only other thing that I had was council reports being submitted 5 days ahead. I just think that might be a little lengthy. I mean, considering the fact that the council time when we go to report is usually a 2-week cycle. Having it 5 days ahead now means that it's only really, just over a week. I'm not sure why would we even need to have them submitted so far ahead. I mean, because really we're reading the council report that night. So why would we be submitting it 5 days ahead? I guess I was just confused on that one.
So I would say what we had previously done with council reports and mayor report was that they weren't written at all. They were certainly just verbalized by the individual member of council at the meeting. There was nothing submitted to be added to minutes. When we originally added the written portion of this, you'll notice the language remains the same in this procedural bylaw. It says council may submit a report, certainly not a requirement. But what we found in the early stages of this council is those reports getting added to the minutes were, I think, problematic. Having them in advance, we can certainly look at shortening that window, understanding that there's a whole process that the legislative services team is required to undertake to get that agenda together and get it out to council by the Thursday afternoon, which is stipulated in the procedural, and allows you time to look through that agenda prior to it becoming public on the Friday. And so we're just trying to make sure we can hit those timelines and have complete packages out to the community.
Okay, yeah, I was curious. I kind of thought council reports could actually just be attached to the next minutes, right? Rather than them being a part of the actual agenda package, just having them attached to the next one forward. Does that make sense?
That certainly is at the discretion of council.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I would prefer to have that than it being actually attached to the physical agenda. As of right now, I guess the only other thing I can say is that Cal versus strategic session, I'm kind of still leaning forward to having that committee of the whole. And then if we do want to have any strategic sessions, having them at our privy on the side. I just think that eliminating committee of the whole altogether, it still has a very valuable spot, but having a strategic session one night a month, I think we're still going to be landing in a place where it's going to be a huge pile of information that we're trying to go through, and I don't know if we're going to get through it all in one night anyways. So if we do have, items that we want to, really do a deep dive into, I think I'd rather take the time rather than feeling that it's just pressured once a month for a few hours. But that's my comments for right now, but everything, I'll wait to hear what everybody else says around the table.
I believe Mr. Hyman's going to want to add in, but can I speak to the strategic session versus the Cal thing? Because that's one of the things I've really been driving the conversation on, or trying to. I'm really trying to get council to create this space where we can do more than have the environment where we're sitting in here. Because the Cal meeting is effectively a council meeting where we don't vote on anything. But I want a standing item in our weekly calendars on Monday evenings where we can go do stuff like field trips to the library, go out and get tours of development where we look at what's not working, what is working. And so instead of having to schedule that on Saturdays or Sundays or Thursday evenings or something, we just, that Monday night is the time where we have different types of structured conversations. And it might also be deep diving on financial stuff where we're printing off huge spreadsheets and stuff like that. And there may be times where we would bring it here to the council chambers, but instead of having it in our procedural bylaw that is happening in the council chambers every fourth Monday, we instead leave it flexible so the strat session can be more of that deep dive brainstorming subject type of stuff. So that's where I'm at on that, and that's what I'm hoping for. And then I think Mr. Hyman, then over to Councilor McFadden.
Thank you, Mayor Nagel. I just wanted to briefly follow up on the Deputy Mayor Fadeko's comments. I just want to be really clear for both council and anyone watching, this is not about speeding up. We want to be very clear about that. I think Ms. Robertson did a great job that this is us listening to you and focusing on decision making, giving you more flexibility. I think you heard that in the mayor's last comments. Predictability and consistency. I think those are some of the things that we're all trying to provide. But I think one of the most important things that Ms. Robertson talked about is still adhering to the Municipal Government Act. We have to do that. So again, this is where even the discussion gives us a little bit of guidance, but I wanted to just reassure everyone here as well as listening that we're not trying to speed things up, or the public process and public opportunity to participate in councils are very important to us still too. So we will be bringing comprehensive reports to council, but looking at Mr. Krasinski's team, the volume of reports you've seen in his RBA presentations, the volume of reports that they bring, and many times those are 3 of the same report. it's going to provide a benefit to our administration as well to focus on other tasks. So again, those are just some preliminary comments that I thought were important to share, but I'll let council continue with the discussion.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, one last thing as everybody was speaking, I wanted to address the Deputy Mayor's mention about the council reports. I think the only drawback to having them just attached to the minutes is the minutes are not where people go and look for information necessarily. Because we do resolution-based minutes and all of the actual data around the why and the how is within the agenda itself, would push for me to recommend that those reports come in ahead of. Maybe we shorten that window from 5 days to the Wednesday before the agenda comes to you for that written submission. But I see value in having that attached to the agenda package as opposed to the minutes. But that's, again, council's discretion.
Councilor McFadden?
Yeah, thank you. Some good food for thought. I really like moving to the consent agenda as a way to be efficient with our time. And so just, these are not in any priority, these are just as I was reading through it. In the 6D item, the oath of office, the swearing in process, kind of the idea is that the CAO would swear in the mayor and then the mayor could swear in everybody else. In previous iterations of council, sometimes we opened that up to like a judge or an MLA or an MP, or I think it might be great for the next council, you know, some leading member of the community type piece. So if we could just change the language a little around that to open it up, I'd like to move away from having the CAO, you know, swear in the council. I don't necessarily like the look of that. Anyhow, so just open that up. I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are. I really like the direction that the mayor's advocating around moving to 3 council meetings and then having a dedicated strategic session instead of the committee of the whole. I think that actually adds a lot of value. And I think it's a great place to be able to say, let's do the tours. And that way it's committed in that evening. It's hard to get people around on, you know, other evenings and weekends, but if we're always committing the Monday, I really like that. And then to be able to have time for council to kind of dive into some deeper discussions. So yeah, got my support for that lean in. Not a big fan of having unnecessary meetings. The notice of motion process, that looks cleaner to me, so I appreciate that, certainly. And then when it comes to the council reports, that was one of my initiatives, borrowed from another municipality. So I really like the ability to, because if you've written it, it can go in the agenda, people can see it, whereas certainly in any of the iterations of council when we've been able to, you know, you just give your 2-minute report, it just, unless somebody's watching in the minute, it just disappears into the other, whereas if it's somehow recorded, I think that provides a benefit. And so I was initially kind of leaning to your thought, it was like just send it in the day of and it could be added to the minutes. But I am actually swayed by the idea of having it, you know, sending it in time so that it can be included in the agenda. And, you know, like my colleagues, my weeks are busy as well, so I'm like, last minute would be better for me, but for it actually, I think, to be meaningful for what I was trying to attain, I think it does make sense to make sure that we have to submit it by Wednesday 9 a.m. or something so that the team has time to build it into the agendas. So I get the concern. I was like, this seems cumbersome, but I do understand what it's trying to accomplish. So those are my thoughts on what's proposed so far. So thank you for the good work.
So seeing no comments, I'll weigh in further. The strat sessions versus cow, I think I've already shared my thoughts on that. On the council report, could we do it as council may submit it? And so essentially, if you want it to be published and sent to as part of the agenda package that people would review, you have to get it in ahead of time. But if you don't have time to do that, then you can verbally still give a council report. That
is the current language.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And then Councilor McFadden's idea about the CAO swearing in council, yeah, not a huge deal, but I do see where you're coming from. So I would support that as well. Trying to find some other neutral, non-town entity to swear in the future council would be nice, I think. And then I had a question on the notice of motion. In the instance of something wanting to move really quickly, would council still be able to, if they give verbal notice on the night of, and would council still be able to do an approval with 2/3 majority?
I believe we've written in that it would be a 2/3 to waive.
Okay. Okay, so then those are my points. Great work. Love to see the way it was presented in terms of smarter, more efficient decision-making. So thank you very much to that. Councillor Federico?
One more question. I know, and I don't know if we landed anywhere on this. We had talked about how on months where we have 5 Mondays in the month, whether or not we would look at booking all 5 Mondays, maybe with the fifth Monday being another information strategic session type of idea. I don't know if we ever landed anywhere on that.
I like that surprise Monday every once in a while when it pops up, but if it is, oh, I actually don't have a council meeting yet. But what does everyone think? It's not spoken to in the current.
It is not. It
Okay.
still speaks to just 3 council meetings, and then that additional, what I'm hearing is a strat session is council's preference.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was something that we wanted to consider. And would that even need to be put in? I guess not. We
I
could-
think if I can, sorry to interrupt, there's always the flexibility. You could, through the process, determine that an upcoming 5th Monday, you would like to do something. Again, I would prefer to do that as opposed to saying that 5th Monday, because I believe it only happens twice a year, really.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thank you.
So again, I'll supplement what Mr. Hyman has said, is that because what the new schedule would then portray is just 3 regular council meetings, and so council would be setting those by resolution, and any of the strat days would be coordinated through Jane and the CAO's office. And so you could hold those when was appropriate, because those aren't public meetings, they don't require the same notice or provisions that a regular council or committee of the whole meeting requires.
And just to, actually, sorry, I'll go to Councillor McDonald first.
Sure. Hard to weigh in, being so new, but this feels like it adds value for admin and for council, so I like that. And then in terms of the workshops versus committee of the whole, I love the idea of having an opportunity for some more organic conversation, where we can dive deeper into something in a way that's a little more fluid. I think that would feel meaningful to me. So that's where I sit so far.
Yeah, and then I was just gonna add, and then of course, everything will always, when there's decisions, will be public. It can also be part of council reports and mayor's reports. If we're out on one of these tours, say at the library, we get an idea, put it into your written council report the next week. And it'll give us that flexibility, I think. I think it's gonna be very productive. But like, Mr. Hyman.
Yeah,
you have
and
something
I
to
would
add?
just say, further to Councillor McDonald's comments, I think there is a lot of value in the strategic sessions where council can do deep dives. I mentioned strategic planning. We're going to get into strategic planning and you're going to identify some priorities. Imagine taking a priority like a fiscal framework like you've already talked about, and having a workshop upstairs where we bring in different experts and just focused and dedicated time to that topic. Or different opportunities for different experts to come in and share about other items that is of particular interest to council. So there's a lot of benefit.
All right, Mrs. Robertson, do you have everything you need? Do you need clarity on anything else?
I believe I've received the feedback from council specific to the schedule and the few revisions to the procedure. We will be looking some around the inaugural. It is required for the CAO to open that meeting. That's within the MGA, but who actually swears in council, I think we can dictate who does that. I have yet to see a CAO do that here in Cochrane. It's generally been Inspector Bruner or someone of that nature who does the official swearing in, so we will work through that process and provide those revisions with the clean copy when we come back for first reading.
And before you escape, and before we get some sort of, there would be no motion arising here, is there?
There would not be. We're just looking for that feedback. I also wanted to confirm council was good with our June 1st implementation date.
No, that was where I was gonna go before you escape. Their natural segue, the reason we're overlapping the conversation with Mr. Blanchette. I was hoping to get this going as soon as possible, if we're in agreement with it, so that we can move the priority conversation into these strategic meetings as quickly as possible, well in advance of June.
Okay,
If
so
we
we
could.
will go back and look through our calendars. As I'm sure council is aware, we book our calendars months out in advance. And so to juggle some of the items that are already scheduled, there is some educational pieces that are coming from our utilities section that they're going to need a good hour for. It was originally scheduled as part of committee of the whole to allow them that flexibility within that space to provide that update. And so we'll look at how we can revamp. I can guarantee you it won't be February, but we will bring back this schedule to get approval, and we will We'll work with Mr. Singh and Ms. Braun to determine how quickly we can get this implemented for council.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blanchette. A very topical next item.
Good evening, Mayor Nagel and members of council. I'm looking forward to our upcoming strat session, the first of probably around 6, and we'll get more into that, starting on the 23rd of January and also on the 24th. This is an opportunity to do a bit of a, I would say, a 3,500-foot look at what we're going to be doing over the next 6 months. So I wanted to spend some time with you to take you through some of the process. Certainly happy to answer some questions today. Obviously, that first session that we'll do, we'll have a really deep dive into the process as well, but again, I'll give you an overview this evening. The purpose of strategic planning is really to serve as council's North Star. It's a guided decision-making, resource allocation, and accountability framework. It'll be something that council and administration are proud of when we launch, as well as when we're looking back 4 years as to what we've accomplished in that time. When we're thinking about process and time commitment, it's a meaningful and actionable, any meaningful and actionable strategic plan typically takes about 4 to 6 months to develop. And that just allows for a lot of input, a lot of considerations. There's a lot of work that goes into that process, not just work being done by council, but work being done by administration to make sure we can deliver on your strategic priorities. So that process ensures council can thoughtfully consider priorities and then identify those along with the work plan that is required to support that. The proposed approach will have a kickoff process in January, as I said, January 23rd and 24th. It'll be workshop-style sessions that we will consider over the following months. As a starting point, administration recommends a 1 half-day session per month through June, with flexibility to adjust based on council's availability and the progress that's made. So depending on when we move towards that change schedule, that could be a part of those strategic planning sessions that have been mentioned. Now let's talk a little bit about the phases. Phase 1 is a foundation setting. So we'll confirm strategic planning principles, shared context, and council's governance role, reinforce the distinction between governance and operations, and clarify how council and administration will work together. We'll confirm what will be developed through the strat plan and what will be translated into operational planning. It's an opportunity to visit the previous strat plan to see what we saw there, what we'd like to bring forward, if there's any items that resonate still with council. An opportunity to look at our vision, our mission, and then develop guiding principles to help design where we want to move to. Then we'll move into strategic themes development, facilitate the development of strategic themes or focus areas that reflect council's direction and context. Where do we want to be? So in actual fact, that foundation setting will probably slip into that on late afternoon Saturday, is to begin to start to think about what are the larger themes that council wants to start to focus on and those priorities. And then we'll draft the narrative for each of those themes to set up outcomes and measures. We'll move into objectives and key results. Council confirms outcomes and priorities. Our senior leadership team will then layer in performance measures to the outcomes and develop indicators that will assist in monitoring our progress. Council considers consolidated outputs to ensure they are accurate reflection of the strategic direction. Then we'll move into the roadmap and the corporate business plan. So the corporate business plan is led and owned by administration, which really it just ladders up to the priorities that council has. The corporate business plan is an administration-led roadmap that turns strategic direction into deliverable work. It identifies key initiatives, sequencing, ownership, and timing, while recognizing core ongoing operations and the legislative work that must continue. This work will translate priorities and outcomes into an operational roadmap and then give us the sequencing and the reporting that assures us that we're making movement forward on those key priorities. Validation and engagement. Validate the draft plan and engage with the community and refine as needed based on feedback. At a minimum, we would use Let's Talk Cochrane with additional methods confirmed based on what has and has not worked locally. So that would be an opportunity for us to engage with council to talk a little bit about what that engagement looks like, what we want to use as specific vehicles, what kind of timing we want to do. Do we want to do targeted engagement or general engagement? But those are all conversations that we'll be able to bring forward. And lastly, and certainly not least, is the finalization and launch. We finalize plans and present to council for approval. Following approval, we'll launch the strategic plan publicly and internally, and then launch the operational plan internally to confirm priorities, ownership, and next steps. So that is a quick overview of what will be taking place over the next 4 to 6 months. And at this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions you might have.
Councilor McFadden?
Yeah, thanks for the overview. So traditionally in Cochrane, we've established a strategic plan for every year. Is the idea in taking 4 to 6 months to develop this one at the beginning of this council that we might be moving to establishing a strategic plan that we would stick to for the whole term and then just amend, or would we be going back into the weeds every year?
So through the mayor to Councilor McFadden, essentially what we would do is we would set a strategic plan and priorities for the full term.
Okay.
And then through that process, we would do at least, if not 2, certainly 1 pretty major review of what progress we've made in terms of the planning. Obviously, the planning in some cases would have things that are happening in that first year and then priorities that are extending over multiple years. But the intention is definitely to make sure that we're coming back in a very formal review period. Likely that would be well aligned with that strategic time that we spend together in the spring, where we could really do a deep dive on those performance outcomes.
Okay, and so again, traditionally Cochrane has lined up having a strategic plan update that we could present to the public in time for the May's trade show, which has always been a great way to launch it. So this will put that outside of that sequence, at least for the first year. So then what would be the idea for how to launch and share this with the community? Because it looks like this would come to fruition about the same time as budget would this year.
Hopefully it'll come, it just depends on timing, and it could actually, depending on the work that we've been able to achieve through that time. So I set a kind of a minimum of 4 months, maximum of 6 months. So there's a chance that there is, depending on where we're at, that we could be able to actually launch that in May, depending on, again, that work. If not, we certainly want to make sure that we're launching that before we have the summer break for council.
Okay.
Yeah, because our worry would be then is if we didn't launch that then, we'd be coming into a very busy time in September. It would get lost within that budget conversation and discussion. So we really want to make sure that we have a clear differentiation between that timeline. And then absolutely, as we review that in the following years, we can time that where it makes the most amount of sense in terms of that public opportunity to review progress, for sure, whether that's the trade show or something that we design in that process.
Okay, so, and then outside of this scope, that all seems reasonable to me. I know other municipalities have moved away from an annual budget cycle to a 3 or 4 year budget cycle, where, a major budget, the council approves their budget in the first year based off of their strategic plan, and then instead of a deep dive every year, the council goes back and tweaks it, so it leads to perhaps a more strategic 4-year cycle for the budget, and also a kind of faster budgetary cycle. Any thoughts on that?
Through the mayor to Councilor McFadden, I think, there'd be a number of my colleagues would really be interested in further conversation around that, is to really actually set that 3 or 4 year budget with obviously opportunities to do much like a deeper dive or a tune-up on that budget. Maybe part of that is a really robust review of our capital projects budget within that as well. But I'd certainly be interested in having further conversations around how we might be able to align that kind of process with our methodology. I think there's a lot of value in taking that approach. And you're still getting lots of opportunity to look at that financial reporting, but it's less of an owner's approach to sort of approving your budgets on a year-over-year basis, for sure. So a lot of interest in that area.
And through the chair to Councilor McFadden, I think one of the opportunities too, as we get into strategic planning, I really want to commend the mayor for asking us to get this on the agenda for today, so council can start thinking about this. But that proposal could be one of the items around fiscal framework that we discuss. And then if there is an interest in council in going to, a 3-year, 4-year budget, it is something that we take your direction based on the input you provide us. So again, really encourage all of council to think about their priorities. Be prepared. We want to hit the ground running. There is the foundation setting is really important, that first step. But the strategic planning, we want to take all the things that you heard as you campaigned, all your own ideas. This is where we really get into focusing on what the core priorities you want to see delivered in your term are.
Okay, it's probably more of a fiscal framework idea, but just to advocate to my colleagues on the bench, and I know we don't have a full bench today, is to move to a zero-based budgeting every year, or at least if we're going to do the 3 or 4 year cycle, zero-based budgeting to start with. So I'd like us to, as a council and as an organization, have a look at moving into different budgeting philosophy as well. So anyway, but I really appreciate that we're having these strategic conversations early in the year, in the beginning of the term, as opposed to trying to do significant changes, midway or 3/4 of the way through a year. So, thank you for letting me share my thoughts.
And if I could just add to the conversation here and how we got to this being on the agenda today. Last week, myself, Mr. Blanchette, and Mr. Heineman had about, 3 to 4 hours of conversations across a couple of different meetings about how do we best structure setting up council's strategic conversations and priorities this year. And so we had this here. So this is tightly connected to the last conversation we just had about how we're going to structure these strategic planning sessions. And starting from where I'm hoping we can get to and working backwards, we have this big weekend of strategic retreat or strategic planning coming up, which is a flexible date, but before the summer break. So probably late May, June. The original plan that we first saw back in October when we got elected was that council would be setting a list of priorities then in June. My concern was that if council's priorities aren't being wrapped up in June, there's no real substantive work actually happening until like January 2027, because we would break for summer, we then come back, we're into budget, and it's pushed all the way back till 2027. So I'm hoping, and I think we're all in alignment that we can work towards it, that by the time we're in that strategic planning weekend, we're not just in the ideation and brainstorming phase, we're like the actual what is already firmed up into a clear list of prioritized items. And instead of talking about what we're going to do, by the time we're all in together working, we're talking about how we're going to do it. And the other thing that I would mention on that is that when we actually take time to set aside a weekend to all get together with no distractions, that's when we're going to be producing our absolute best results and best conversations. And I think it's going to be better to use that highly focused time to be talking about really granular, difficult, detailed conversations, as opposed to high-level, blue sky kind of whiteboard conversations. So, but if we're working towards that as the plan, is that in June, we want to have the roadmap and workshopping work already happening. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to happen before that. I released that video update, and I also sent council an email about a whole bunch of rec center stuff that's coming into place. I think it's been pretty clear with the creation of the capital reserve budget that we passed that we're going to want to do something on rec. But before we can have that conversation, there's a number of different studies and stuff that need to be completed. Those probably can't be completed until June. And so that is pushing that conversation just on rec to then. But we also need to have, like something Mr. Blanchette added, is before we get to the detailed conversation about what, which is where I want to get us right away, Kevin wants us to agree, and I think it's a wise suggestion. Let's first start with agreeing on, what are the broad principles that we're trying to achieve in terms of the theme and the broader level of philosophies and objectives and principles and values. We need to have good alignment on that before we get alignment on the specific items. And so something else that I suggested that I think we should do early on in this process is going back to that strategic document that the last council produced, and instead of, like, to be clear, and Kevin's in agreement with me, and I believe Mr. Hyman is as well, that at the end of this, we're not just going to be producing like a 10-page fluffy document. It's going to be really detailed, but we also don't want to throw out that good work. So instead of starting by creating that visioning document, I'm thinking we should start by reviewing that as a group and updating it. And so one of the things that I've also talked about is like this notice of motion that I was planning on bringing forwards. I think something like that is better to be had as part of a broader conversation in updating the strategic plan document. And so I know I'm kind of spewing a whole bunch of stuff at you guys, but I'm trying to capture my thoughts as well as possible to try and get alignment on like the path forwards for the next 6 months. I'll stop talking for the time being. Councillor Wilson?
You bet. Yeah, you gave me a few nuggets there, and so did Councillor McFadden. I remember our first council, I really appreciated that at the May trade show, as Councillor McFadden brought up, we had a little pocket pamphlet that actually, it listed out for the public and ourselves, this is our roadmap, here's our strategy, here's what we're aligned on and getting accomplished, and even a capital project list of what we're going to get to. And you absolutely have my attention and support when I hear that. I want to produce something like that this year and not have that be something that doesn't come till 2027 because we're sitting in some council retreat talking about our vision, mission, and guiding principles. Again, I think that is a waste of time, and I'll be super disappointed if we don't have that produced this year in 2026. So I think that's what I just heard from you, and if that's the case, I'm in total support of that. I think we need to get the vision, mission, guide, and principle part out of the way here in January and actually be able to produce something that outlines to the public what this council prioritizes and what we're looking to accomplish. So if I heard you say pretty much that right there, absolutely, Mr. Mayor, I agree.
Well, Council, and if I can, Mr. Blanchette has been very good about what's Council's North Star. What are the items that you're going to be pursuing? And again, that's exactly, Councillor Wilson, how you articulated we want to have by the end of this time. We would want something detailed that we could share with the public and everyone understands what that North Star is. That's the best possible place for us to be in.
Mr. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you for that clarity, CAO Hyman. On the topic of I like a date that I can imagine in my head. So the May trade show, do you anticipate that we might have that North Star, those guiding principles, something that we can actually show the public that this is what this council is marching towards? Do you think May is too early of a deadline to produce a small document like that?
I do think that it's a little ambitious in terms of the May. Again, I think when we look at that finalization and launch and understanding that, I want to trust the process. That's some language that I often use internally. I think Mr. Blanchette and his team have a good plan. But getting back to your point, I'm confident it'll be this year. I don't think we're waiting till 2027 to have that information. So I just don't think May, the first weekend in May, we're going to have it, but I'm confident that we're going to have it later in 2026.
And just to jump in, I think what we can have that I can assist with is for May, we can have conversation to talk to the public about like the things ready to talk about on every single major subject. I've already got this whiteboard up in the mayor's office. I've been filling in on all these different details. So it won't be, oh, we don't know what we're doing on rec. We don't know what we're doing on seniors housing. We don't know what we're doing on business. It'll be like, here's the conversations we're currently having. And we'll be able to package that up and firm it up for the public in time for May, if that makes sense.
Okay, excellent. I'm just trying to get my head around what this new process is and what the timelines will look like. It's too vague for me to totally understand if I love it or dislike it at this point, other than just have deliverables, like you just said. If we actually have answers to give to the public by May, that is where that's where I want to be, and I'll trust the process if that's going to get us there. If this is the best way forward.
And I'll pass it over to you, Councillor, for taking a second, but to put a fine point on where I'm trying to drive it towards, and I think I have Mr. Blanchette's support, is before summer, we're going to have a real conversation about how we're going to deliver on all of council priorities. Not like specifically what the exact steps are with the exact budgets, but a roadmap as to how we're going to get there. And that is going to really start firming up at this weekend-long strategic planning exercise. But before that weekend, we're going to have a what the list is. So over the next 5 to 6 months, we're going to develop first the foundations and then the list of what we're going to do. And then during the strategic retreat, we're going to start the serious work of how do we do this over the next 3.5 years.
Mr. Mayor, if I can only add one thing, you've talked about the strategic sessions. So you'll also have strategic sessions along here where you're getting touch points. It's not like we start this process and you're like, well, what's happening strategic planning? What we've outlined is a process where January you'll have something, February, March, April, May, June. And then we'll collectively work together, very similar to the budget, and produce something that you can stand behind and we can share with the public.
Okay, excellent. I love the sentiment I'm hearing anyway, and it's exciting that we're going to be marching quickly towards these ambitious goals. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Federico?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious on the timeline as well. I mean, and keep in mind, I mean, I absolutely agree that we need to have an actual plan of what we're doing, be able to prove it to the public that this is what we're doing. But keep in mind, we do have a few new members that are brand new on council, and I think that we have to be fair that I'll just align that foundation setting just for them to be able to put their ideas out there is very important. And I mean, we're already coming towards the end of January and we're talking about beginning of May of a trade show. Like that's probably a little too fast, in my opinion, to get everybody's thoughts around the table. I mean, when we talk about not even meeting until the end of May into June to even talk about that strategic development overall, right? The bigger picture, I think we have to be fair rather than trying to rush through something. I just think that it sounds ambitious. We all want to be ambitious, but I think that we have to take some steps to get there and not just clunkily dump out things to the public that, you know, we haven't all had a chance to even not only be able to put on the table, but then really think about it in the meantime. That's just my 2 cents. I want to do it well, not fast.
So Councillor Federico, can I ask questions to that? So so there's kind of two things that I was talking about with the weekend retreat session. Are you in line that we should try and have the wish list of like the 5 items that are most important to us that can be established before we do a full weekend of planning, and then we start really nailing it out? And that would be June. We're looking at probably June before everyone's schedule's pending, June before a summer break. Or do you think that's too fast?
No, I think that's a good goal to have. Whether or not you get there is, I mean, really, we're only talking about a day and a half of sitting down and coming to the table with all our different ideas. I think it might be a bit ambitious. I mean, I'm hoping that we get there, but I also don't want to rush this, right? Like, this is not something that we should just be hammering out. And also the fact that 4 of us have been around the table and we might have a little bit more knowledge of how strategic planning goes. Also just being able to share those ideas. We also have history with each other. We have 3 new people that I want to give them a fair opportunity to be able to come to the table to share their thoughts as well, because some of their thoughts we might not all agree. We have to be in agreement first. And if we get there, great. If we don't, then maybe it's decided through some of those other meetings. I'm not sure. I just want to be careful that we're not running without making sure that we're actually pausing and allowing everybody to have some time to marinate on what's being discussed as well.
And can we keep talking about this? I want to just have this conversation. Are you understanding though that what we're proposing is not just a day and a half to create that list, that we have where you would use the next 5.5 months to work towards that list?
Yeah, I get that. It's just the rush of like, hey, at the trade show, we're going to be out there talking to people, and these are going to be exactly what we're doing. That to me is ambitious. I think that you can have the ideas, but they shouldn't just be, you know, these are the 5 points that's what we're working on. There could be other conversation that's still happening. It's a good icebreaker. I just don't want it to be like signed and dotted on the line. I don't know if we're all going to be there, and I just want to have that flexibility. It's not to say that we won't be there. I just think that we have to be fair to everybody sitting around the table.
And I totally hear you. But just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that we would have a list for the trade show.
No, I got that. But then Councillor Wilson was hoping to have a list of the trade show. So it's just making sure that everybody has time to be able to put their thoughts to it.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just add, I mean, I love the conversation. I think, you know, this next month or 2 months is really going to give us an understanding of like what that timeline really is. I certainly wouldn't want to, you know, overcommit and say we'll have that by the trade show. But again, this is a 4 to 6 month process, and it's really designed to be, you know, in a very thoughtful way, to be very strategic within the plan, if you will, but also to set up so the council can be successful in developing their priorities. I would not want you to rush your priorities. I would want you to have the meaningful conversation and reflect on that and bring it in. I hear Councilor Wilson in terms of moving past the journey of mission, vision, and values and moving into the conversation. What do we need to get done? But I really think it's critical that this team, this bench, is aligned on what its themes are, and then what are that sort of 3, 5, 7 kind of priorities that you would, you see as the things that are going to indicate success in terms of your term collectively as a team. And then we get that right in terms of that overall planning. And then we as administration can ladder up to that and make sure that our work plans are going to help demonstrate and showcase the opportunities to really demonstrate that those plans are being delivered.
Okay, Councilor McFadden, what do you think?
Many great things. I really support and agree with the basic principle that we need to make sure that we bring everybody along. Like, we need to commit to that. Because, yeah, those of us who've been around the table longer, we could jump into this tomorrow and win the argument, and it'd be great. But at the end of the day, we are a council of 7, and each voice has equal weight, and we need to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to come along with it. In balance with that, of course, we don't want to waste time. We only have 4 years. There's a budget that we want to get set and being set direction with in the fall, so the sooner we can be clear on what our priorities are to administration, the sooner they can start building a budget that aligns with that. So in that balance of haste versus making sure that informed decision-making from everybody around the table, I think we can do it. I mean, this is stretching out the strategic planning over, 4 to 6 months, it looks like, which, if it's going to guide the whole term, seems appropriate to me, as opposed to in the past where we had a crunchy weekend and then we would do it every year. So I think this is a much more strategic approach to it, just to keep it balanced. But it also makes me really value what you're suggesting, Mr. Mayor, is the introducing of the strategic sessions, because we can start to lean into those to have some of these discussions as we go. So I think changing how we use our meetings and setting this as the guiding light we're trying to work towards, I think they can come together well and allow the 7 of us to have those real conversations together. So I think we're coming up with a good plan. I did have 2 thoughts, though, regarding the May trade show. I think we do want to be able to say something about what council's direction is. And I know you've been working on it, and kudos to all the work you've done in making sure that you're bringing council in. But I would think that we would take advantage of one of these strategic sessions. And as much as I like to use the bonus Monday as an extra night, maybe we should dedicate one of those coming up to have a chat about what we want to communicate in the early days of our council in May, to say, we're working through this, we're working to the budget, we're working to the larger things, but be able to have a concise conversation. So that's kind of my thoughts around there. And I guess I did need some clarity. So we're talking around the strategic planning session. We've got the 23rd and the 24th booked this month. And then we're planning another weekend further towards June.
Through the mayor to Councilor McFadden, no, we would do a series of meetings. And so we could actually look to start to utilize some of those strategic planning sessions as facilitating that. So rather than having to find a weekend or a different time, we could certainly do that. Okay. But even if you look at, so yes, we will have a series of meetings to continue to progress this work forward. But even if you look at that validation and engagement piece, that might be a great opportunity to do a bit of that work around the trade show, is to say, look, we've got our kind of broader themes around our strategic plan. And again, we need to be careful about that engagement part of that communication, but it might be an opportunity to do some of that work and get some feedback on that as well, depending on how we progress. But you've got our commitment to continue forward. But to Councilor Fedeco's point, I think it's absolutely essential that we do this the right way, so that we're getting that right plan, and so we're delivering on the outcomes that you as council could be very proud about when you're looking back on your term.
Councilor Wilson.
Just one more clarity question, just so I still don't completely understand where we're going to be once we get to step 6 with this plan. And I think I just heard we get there before we go to summer break. Clear enough to me. And so I'm just wondering, Kevin, something like this that I have from 2021 that actually shows what are we doing and what are we planning to do, complete with capital project lists. Do you think we'd have that by summer with your plan, by summer break?
through the mayor to Councilor Wilson, absolutely, that would be part of a very broad communication plan that we would have in terms of rolling out that strategic plan. So in terms of videos, our website, collaterals like that, absolutely, we could determine what's in the best interest, what showcases that strategy in the best way. So before we go to summer break, certainly we would want to have that communication plan enacted, so we can begin to really, share that messaging around for certainly, but that's a great tool to be able to demonstrate that as well.
Okay, excellent. That's what I want to hear, is that we have something to
Certainly.
bring to residents by summer break then, if that's the.
And again, I don't want to overemphasize it, but there really could be a good opportunity within the trade show to do some of that validation and engagement. Need to do that the right way and be very mindful of, where we're at in the plan. We don't want it, it's got to be pretty far along so that we're able to sort of stand behind what we're presenting, but it's an opportunity. And again, if we put that work in those phases, I think we might be in a good place to be able to have that conversation.
Fantastic, thank you.
The way that this conversation evolves has really made me feel like maybe the whole theme of our trade show this year can be surveys and information collecting, and we can be at a stage where this is what council's talking about. How do you prioritize this? And maybe we because often we've used that trade show to like, here's what we're doing, and we're going to tell you about it. But maybe that's where we get for years 2, 3, and 4. Maybe for year 1, though, it's more like them telling us, the community telling us how they prioritize things. Do you care more about ball diamonds or transit? Is kind of like the types of questions we're trying to get answered.
Mayor Nagle, if I can, I think one of the things, if you look at this outline of the process, you talk about strategic themes development, so you'd have that by the end of March. You'd have the general themes, you've already talked about it, recreation, fiscal framework, different things of that nature. You could have something at the trade show around those pillars and provide an opportunity for people to give input, which helps further define this as we work through that process, just as an idea.
That's a good idea. Councilor McDonald?
I'll weigh in as one of those new voices. I think I actually feel mostly like a benefactor of all of these changes that are being introduced tonight. It feels, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like more workshopping of strategy than what was done historically. So I feel really lucky to be a part of those changes. I just want to note that I think the foundational work is really galvanizing for us as a team, for our culture as a team. So I don't want to stay in it forever, but I do see a ton of value in that work, and I'm really looking forward to that work. I think the trade show date kind of was a little bit, caused a little bit of anxiety around the table tonight, because it feels like a little bit of an arbitrary circle on the calendar of rushing something. But with what we've discussed tonight, with all these changes, I would predict we'll have just wonderful, really rich things to talk about by the time we're at the trade show together. So yeah, mostly I just feel really lucky that I get to experience council with all these new changes. I'm not too worried about it being a rush or being less time to learn than in the past.
Okay, great. Anything else? Okay. Do we need a motion to accept this for information? Yes, can I get a motion? Councilor Wilson?
So move.
All in favor? Thank you. Looking forward to all this. Okay, notices of motion. Seeing none. And that goes into mayor's report. I just told Jaylene last week I would be better at submitting my written mayor's report, and I don't have a written mayor's report this week. But it was a very busy week last week. These strategic conversations that we just had are a lot of what filled my mind over the past week, but also went out and did a number of community events. We launched a new spa. Well, we didn't. A community member did, and we were lucky enough to be invited to cut the ribbon on it. I believe it's pronounced Euonia? It's a head spa to get your scalp massaged. I did not receive a scalp massage, but it's down in Greystone if you want to get it done. Councillor Singh and I also attended the inauguration ceremony of the Bears Pond Nation new chief and council, and we had more of a major report there. We presented them with a gift, and they presented us with a gift as well. They gave us this blanket, which we brought here to show everybody, and we will stick that up somewhere here, either in the council chambers or in our antechambers in the back. But it is a show of good faith and a bright future working together with our Indigenous neighbors to the west. We have this. We've received it very graciously. We're very appreciative. And I want to thank Councillor Singh for actually filling in to give a speech. We were there for 5 hours, and I had to slip out at the end because it was much longer than I expected. And I was gone by the time they actually called us up there to talk. So Councillor Singh actually went up there and gave a speech and received the blanket. In addition to that, I was also at a very delayed Christmas party with some developers and builders in Canmore, where I was teasing them and bugging them, trying to get them to come out to Cochrane and try and build some of the beautiful building architecture types that they have in Canmore and Banff out here in our community. Don't know what'll come of it, but there are going to be follow-up conversations. And in addition to that, there's been a very large number of meetings, which I believe I've been updating council with on a very ad hoc basis. But the biggest theme of this past week and the start of this year is everything we just talked about with the strategic principles, for sure. So yeah, motion to accept mayor's report. Okay, all in favor? And council reports. Councillor Singh.
So I'll start with my board and committee update. I'll be attending my first meeting for one of my council committee, Cochrane Area Seniors Advisory Committee, on Wednesday. And had a productive and engaging afternoon with Premier Smith and other cabinet ministers in Calgary on December 22nd. And along with Mayor Nagel, and I attended the Bearspaw First Nation Chief and Council inauguration ceremony. Also, past year, I had an opportunity to watch one of the games of Cochrane Journal versus Ponoka Stampeders as SLS Center, and attended the first Filipino year-end party in Cochrane. It was amazing, full of energy and joy. And I wanted to congratulate Ann Lee for the grand opening of Unia Flow Spa located at Greystone Co-op Plaza. Mayor Nagel and I had the honor of being part of the ribbon cutting ceremony. And also I wanted to congratulate the Canucks Cochrane Journals on their incredible season. They broke the franchise record for most wins in a row, 10 games in a row, for the first time in their 42-year history of Journals. Shout out to the coaches, teacher, parents, supporters, and most importantly, the players. They have recently added a mental health coach. And also the Cochrane Area EMS Crisis Citizen Action Club. Brian Winter is the chair. Since their inception in 2021, the club has been advocating to the provincial government to quit flexing ambulances out of the community. After 5 years of volunteering hundreds of hours, they believe they are making inroads by ensuring we always have one staff ambulance in Cochrane. In late 2025, the club met with Matt Jones, Minister of Hospital and Surgical Health Services, and Ann McDonald's, Executive Director of EMS Provincial Operations. They emphasized that both teams need to keep working 24/7 on 4 pillars. Cochrane emergency ambulances are not flexed out of town. Cochrane emergency ambulances are not doing inter-facility transfers. And Cochrane emergency ambulances are cleared at hospital within 45 minutes and returned to Cochrane, not reassigned to other Calgary calls. And also Cochrane emergency crews are trained, rest, and have confirmed hours utilization of less than 46% of the time. And I wanted to share a brief update regarding my earlier thinking around establishing a finance and corporate committee. Following the information we received this evening on upcoming strategic plan, scheduled for January 23rd and 24th, I decided not to proceed with submitting a notice of motion at this time. My intent is to fully engage with the strategic planning discussions and work collaboratively with council to establish our shared priorities, governance approach, and organization focus for this term. I believe the presentation this evening and upcoming session would provide an important context and help ensure that future committee structure is well aligned with council overall direction. That said, I want to be clear that the concept of Finance and Corporate Advisory Committee remains a priority for me moving forward. I see it as a potential tool to support council's work in areas such as financial oversight, corporate governance, and long-term sustainability. And I look forward to continue that discussion with colleagues following the strategic planning. I appreciate the opportunity to approach this in a coordinated and thoughtful way and look forward to the discussion ahead. So, thank you.
Okay, motion to accept council reports. Councilor McDonald,
Make that motion.
carried. Oh, sorry, all in favor? Whoops, carried. And that is the end of the public portion of the Cochrane Council meeting this evening. We're going to move into closed session. Can I get a motion to do that? Councilor Singh? Okay,
Closed session, yeah.
yep. Any conversation? Yeah. Conversation? No? Seeing no conversation, we'll